What's good, YouTube, and welcome back to another video. And in today's video, I want to respond to a comment that was on my video of rank play is flawed. So let's get right into it, all right? So I don't know how to pronounce the name. I'm going to say it's Cons. I'm going to assume Y is silent or it's coins. Cons, coins. You let me know in the comments below what it is. But with that being said, this is the first point that he made. He goes, just think that the early point of I don't want to play ranked because if I have a good game and get bumped up to a new rank where people are better, I'll get shit on. And rank play is always about ranking and climbing the ladder. So, in principle, I agree with you. And I have a couple notes here on the side that I'm gonna reference. So I agree with you, but it shouldn't be based off a game by game basis because there's too many variables that happen, right? You want the first main thing is you, right? You're not gonna play the same consistently every game, especially based off of the teammates you have, right? Competitive is a public competitive game, right? It's not a CDL tournament where you got to get, drafted and paid and you have to play these certain rule sets at these certain times and locations. Ranked play can be played at any given time with anybody, especially if you queue up solo. And what I want to do is avoid that problem, right? And so if I play one game and do well, they're basically going to punish me and put me against better players, right? I'm not saying I don't want to play those good players, but in this situation where if I'm queuing up solo or even duo, I don't want to play better players because I'm not going to be able to compete, especially if I run up to a team that is stacked. So what I was trying to elaborate on is that instead of it being based off of game by game basis, it should be over a course of 2 months. Because because you think about it, each Call of Duty year or each Call of Duty is a year span, right? There is so many different things that can happen within that year that could cause you to either get better or get worse based off of how much you play, based off of the updates to the game, right? Because they can nerf and buff stuff, right, depending on how the game is being played. And so I would rather see me climb a rank in 2 months rather than fight for my life going back and forth and doing that over like a weekend, right? Because there's too many variables to what is going on. So if I come home from work and man, I got 2 hours and I want to play some ranked, a lot could happen in those 2 hours, right? Obviously, I could be tired from the day, and then again, I could get so many different random teammates, right? I can't always play with my friends that are good enough to compete, right? So I'm relying on Call of Duty to give me decent teammates. So with my proposition, I'm trying to avoid that. So what I'm saying is you do a 2 month rank system where again you do 10 placement matches. It places you into a rank, whether that's bronze, silver, gold, diamond, crimson, iridescent, whatever, and you play those same players. Hence, skill-based matchmaking. You play the same skill level every game, right? They don't move you to a higher one or move you to a lower one. You play the same skill level every game. That way, you can see how good you can be against those same players for a long period of time. Then at the end of that time, you then play a playoff bracket to see who's actually the best of that rank. Then, of course, you're gonna get better over time if you're playing the game consistently and whatever. Then that way, at the end of that season, going into the next season, you will play 10 placement matches. You will most likely place higher that after after those 10 placement matches. So that's what I'm saying, right? Then to go into your second point, smurfing is a thing that's across the board, right? Or across life. It's called sandbagging in combat sports. No matter where you are in life, there are always going to be overqualified people in underqualified positions just taking advantage. Okay, sports does a really good job of this by building a narrative, right? Right now, the only real narrative to smurfing is they have people that make new accounts and they play against the lower skill ranks. Well, what happens over time of that new account is because they're playing so well against lower rank, they're going to end up into a rank where they're not going to dominate anymore, right? And then they just make a new account, and that just happens over and over again. You play 10, 50 matches, you dominate, make a new account. 10, 50 matches, dominate. That's smurfing 101, right? Like that's probably the easiest way to smurf and just continue to play the lower skill ranks. So to combat that is you will place your 10 placement matches in a rank, and then you're in that same rank. So let's say you're smurfed your rank. Well, what would happen is there would be again a live community leaderboard where you could see where the person ranks at because of all the points they've accumulated, and you could say, okay, this guy's gold and he has 5,000 points, and the lowest person under him has 1,500. Like, of course, you could clearly see that he's smurfing, and you could either, as the developer, you can ban him, you can, publicly like shame him or whatever you want. Like that's what needs to happen, right? That's what they do in real sports is, when we think about James Harden, right? James Harden's a really good seasoned basketball player, but every time he gets to the playoffs, he chokes, right? That's just the nature of what happens. So the narrative is nobody's going to pick him to win because he always has proven that he's not a good playoff performer. So again, the same thing is, let's say he smurfs in the gold lobbies, people will make that narrative, oh, the only reason why he's doing that well is because he's smurfing. And then eventually people would know that and they wouldn't want to smurf. It would deteriorate, it would, what's it called? Where you decline, you would deter people from doing that, right? And then of course, Epic would then, or Epic or Call of Duty, whoever in their rank system would then just go ban the guy or shadow ban him or put him in a higher rank, right? Like that could be easy. Like, all right, you're clearly after playing, 2 weeks of this, and now you're clearly this. We'll just put you up a rank. You could do that, right? So let's move on to the next point. Rank play system that gives you any participants a clear idea of where they are in a skill range based on a skills test objective plays. Here's the problem with that is I don't, right? Most people don't because you don't know, like let's say you have a good match and the next match you play, let's say you played on the same map in the same game mode but then get dominated. Well, you really don't know. The only difference it's going to tell you is that you played better people. Whereas, why would I play better people? Those are not the same skill level. They are clearly better than me. They should clearly be in a higher rank. It's the same thing with sports, right? If I'm playing college baseball and I do really well, just because I played one game really well doesn't mean I should go play in the pros. They don't do that. That's because that's not fair. That's not realistic. Pro players or the MLB is way better than college players. So why would you do that? Why would one day you play against college, you dominate them, and then all of a sudden you go to the pros, you're going to get dominated to get sent back down to college? It doesn't make sense. You would just play a season of against the college players. If you happen to be better than everybody, then your success rate of going up against those pro players are going to be higher. But again, in baseball, they don't have you do that. They have you go to minors where you play in double A, triple A, or single A, right? Then once you get good enough there and they think you're ready, then they move you up to the MLB. So it's the same idea, right? If you test your skills against the same skill level, and let's say you do dominate, fairly of course, then they would see it, then you would play it in a playoff bracket at the end of the month, determining where you place that. Again, if most people in gold are in the top 250, they're probably ready to go to the next rank in being in diamond. Okay? So then they would place their 10 matches. They're probably going to place in diamond. Maybe some people make a bigger jump. Maybe some people put more time into the game than others. So then they get placed into diamond again. Or, get bumped up to diamond. It can happen, right? But at least there's, each tier or each rank has its own playoffs tournament to determine who the best player was or the best players were in that rank. And it just tells you, let's say you don't place in the top 50 or win the playoff tournament, it at least tells you where you rank out of all the gold players, right? Because right now when you go to Call of Duty, they don't give you all those stats. They don't tell you, they just give you a big ass leaderboard. I would want it breaking down to see where everybody's at all ranks, So that way I can determine, like, okay, if I run up to this player, if I'm running up against the same gold player, and let's say last year or last last season they were happened to be diamond, well maybe something happened. Maybe they didn't play the game enough. Maybe they just didn't stay up to date with the game and so when they come down, I'm probably going to be a little bit more locked in because he still might have some good skills, right? Whereas now you don't know. Every match is a different match because if you play well, you could play better players. Sometimes if you play bad, then you're going to play lower ranked. It's too inconsistent of trying to gauge how well you're doing in a session, right? Because if I only have a couple matches to play, I don't want to do the back and forth. I want to play the same skill level so that way I can see how I played against the same skill level for 4 or 5 matches, because a match or two I might need to take time to warm up. Or maybe the first match is a map I'm not really good at. Or maybe it's a game mode I'm not really good at. I don't get to play the game for 8 hours a day. So if you're telling me that I need to figure out how to win 5 games out of my 5 matches, that's not fair, especially with all the, what I said before, with all the different, variables of, different players that you can get matched up with. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and finish. And then they go, dad subjective most of all winning, excuse me, the whole fun of ranked is going against those who are better and improve oneself, trial and error, as well as simulate the pro experience for every level of player. So again, as well as simulate the pro experience for every level of player. So gold players, to simulate that pro level, should play gold players. That's their pro level, right? So they should be playing against gold players. Just because they're doing well a couple matches, that shouldn't mean they should go play diamond, okay? And vice versa. If you're a diamond player and you have a couple bad matches, you shouldn't be rewarded with an easy game against gold players. You see what I'm saying? You need to play the diamond players, and you need to go through the ups and downs of playing those diamond players and actually see what they're doing to beat you, so that way you can get better at being a diamond player. Whereas you may dominate, get lucky against one match of diamond player, gold players, maybe some of, because right now some of those silver jumped up to gold because they did really well. You may dominate, but they're not really true gold players, and now you're playing against diamond players. You see how there's too many variables of match to match right now. It should just be the same players from the same rank for 2 months. Then you will play a playoff bracket determining those best gold players, best diamond, best crimson, best iridescent. Then at the end of that, you will get placed in, a 10 placement again, and then you will get placed in your new updated rank. Now, to sum it all up, right? A lot of people are going to say, well, what if you don't want to go to the next rank? So again, that's smurfing, and that'll be very obvious because you would have already placed. So let's say you come in the top 250 in gold, and you're like, man, I don't want to go to diamond. Well, that defeats the whole purpose of your argument, because you're saying that people want to level up. So again, this guy's already not trying to do that. And then it would be very obvious that that guy was smurfing, because if he placed in the top 250, he probably should have been in diamond, right? But at least we got to visually see it over 2 months in a playoff series. So then Epic or, Call of Duty, the developers can just go in and be like, all right, guy, you're going up to the next rank. Especially if he has way more score than everybody. It's clear. You could clearly see that. So I hope this video clears up some of those concerns, because I know you said you didn't watch the whole video. Do go back and watch the entire video. Maybe it might make more sense. But hopefully that made a lot more sense, and I was able to actually hit on some key points there. But again, I appreciate your comment. I appreciate you giving me the feedback. I'm trying to get better. I kind of like these ranty videos because that's just my style. Like, I get very passionate about some of this stuff, because I do understand that there's so many different skill levels, and I want to have each skill level represented, but they got to do it in a better way. And I think having seasonal ranked is much better than having a day, game by game ranked, because at the end of the day, there's too many variables. And so you guys let me know in the comments below what y'all think, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.